Welcome back to the Simply Fitness podcast. I'm John Stein. On this episode of the podcast, I got a chance to talk with Nikki DiNezza about gut health. We talk about why gut health is so important and what actions you can take today to improve your gut health. Hope you guys enjoy this episode. So, welcome to the Simply Fitness podcast. I'm glad we got you on here. Excited when you reached out to me. I was, looked into you a little bit. I was really excited that you reached out and think that you'll be a great, expert to have on here for a little bit, talk a little bit about gut health and, the importance of it and maybe, clear up a few myths that, some people might be having about it. I know there's a lot of information out there. Even a sciencey person like me, there's a lot of confusing, opinions and what's actually truth out there and everything. So give the listeners just a quick little introduction about who exactly you are and, just a little brief explanation of your story.
So my name is Nikki DiNezza. I'm a doctor of chiropractic and nutritional therapy practitioner, and I mostly help women with digestive issues, predominantly IBS, which is kind of a bullshit diagnosis. And we're going to get to that, I'm sure, at some point. But basically, pooping problems, bloating, abdominal pain, stuff like that, I tend to work with a lot. And these are people who usually don't have a lot of answers from the conventional medical world.
Yeah.
They kind of shrug and go, well, you don't have colitis, you don't have Crohn's, you don't have celiac disease. Cool to be you. See you later. Yeah. So that's where what I do, functional medicine, really, really shines. And there's a lot that could be done for these kind of disorders when you take into account nutrition and herbal medicine and probiotics and fiber and that sort of stuff. So that's who I help. I don't know. What else did you want me to say? I don't know.
A little bit more just about yourself, about your story. How did you, come into this realm of, gut health and, working with this specific, type of clientele? So it is a very specific type of area. So what kind of drew you into, that path?
Yeah, well, because I had IBS myself.
Yeah.
So my initial kind of pull into functional medicine was because of autoimmunity, which also gets horribly managed by conventional medicine.
Yeah.
And my mom has an autoimmune condition or several. And I had so many epiphanies listening to my first functional medicine seminar and realizing how much I could help her with her Hashimoto's and her thyroid stuff.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the lines, I realized, hey, wait, I have gut health stuff, and maybe I can work on that from a functional perspective and nutritional perspective. And I would have been diagnosed with IBS had I sought out that diagnosis. I just didn't really go to see anybody for it. Mm-hmm. I'm not a huge fan of conventional medicine as a rule of thumb, so I just figured, why bother? But it turns out that not only am I a celiac, and I didn't know for God knows how long, but I had some other food sensitivities, and I figured out that I think I had SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, when my gut was really bad, but I just didn't know. But I did some stool testing, and it turns out I had a few parasites and some yeast overgrowth and some bacterial overgrowth to deal with. Yeah. So I really had to overhaul my own microbiome and my own gut and heal my gut lining. And now my gut is in pretty good shape, but it was quite a journey to get to that point.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's dive a little bit deeper into, gut health and why it is so important, because, you said a lot of things in there, and a lot of, my listeners might have no idea about, some of the things that you were talking about there. So why is it important for someone to, pay attention to your gut health? There's all these things that are thrown at us, you got to pay attention to this, and this, how much you're eating, your water, your fitness, why is gut health, maybe should be added to that list of areas that people should be focusing on in their health?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally biased, but in my opinion, it's the foundation for everything else. Mm-hmm. Along with like sleep and stress and movement, I think gut health is pretty tops, among other things. Like, I honestly don't care about your hormones until your gut is in check. I don't care about, not that I don't care about it, but I don't directly treat hormones, or I don't directly treat the immune system or skin or something else until the gut is in check, because it's going to dictate how your body responds to everything.
Yeah.
Not only is that where you absorb all of your nutrients, so if
Hmm.
you don't have the protein and the fat and the vitamins and minerals and the building blocks to make a hormone or to make a cell or to make, some chemical compound in your body,
Hmm.
then you're
Yeah.
just not going to do it without the compounds.
Yeah.
But also, that's where most of your immune system lives. Like
Yeah.
70+% of your immune system just chills out around the gut and it waits for stuff to get weird. So
Yeah.
if you have an inflammatory condition or an autoimmune condition, the absolute best way that you can tinker with the immune system is by tinkering with your gut, because that's
Yeah.
where it's getting all the stimulation.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, if there was a pyramid of, things that are important, I think you listed them all. I think gut health should definitely be included on there with, sleep
Yeah.
and movement, stress management, and just nutrition,
Yeah.
um, overall there. So when it comes to gut health, what are people looking to do with their gut health? Like, how do people, kind of take control of their gut health, maybe pay attention to it. Because I think a lot of people, when they hear gut health, they think, oh, does my stomach hurt? Or,
Mhm.
like, am I going to the bathroom enough? Or, like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just don't know where to pay attention to, or maybe even realize how much their gut is just like intertwined into like their whole body.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, how to know your gut is setting up the flag for help,
Yeah,
unbeknownst to you.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you hit the nail on the head that some people will experience abdominal pain or bloating or constipation or diarrhea or reflux. Like, if you have
Yeah.
anything locally happening in the
Yeah.
gut, definitely pay attention to the gut. Like, that's kind of
Yeah.
a no-brainer. That's
Yeah.
even conventional medicine understands that much, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I think that's it.
gut pain,
That's
go to
it.
a GI
That's what
doctor.
people think about. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say the other biggies are if you have any sort of a neurological condition,
Mhm.
and that can range from Parkinson's and Alzheimer's to autism, even ADHD. If there's anything neurological going on or like brain based going on, even heck, brain fog. Brain
Mhm.
fog and fatigue very often are
Yeah.
related to the gut because of
Yeah.
that cooking up a lot of inflammation from the gut affecting the brain.
Yeah.
So anything brain based, I think you need to pay a lot of attention to the gut.
Mhm.
Anything autoimmune or like immune mediated.
Mhm.
So, things like rheumatoid arthritis, or I mentioned my mom with Hashimoto's, which is an
Yep.
autoimmune thyroid condition, lupus, MS, anything like that is your immune system crying for help. And again, most of them live in the gut.
Yeah.
I would also say that things that are not autoimmune, but they're immune mediated or immune controlled
Mhm.
largely, things like asthma and eczema,
Yeah.
those are also a good hint that there's something kind of wackadoo happening in the gut and that your immune
Yeah.
system needs some help. Um, and then, surprisingly enough, this is not a clinical focus of mine, but there's
Yeah.
very good research that the gut and the microbiome and the gut lining are strongly driving things like type 2 diabetes and obesity and hypertension and what we would call metabolic syndrome in
Yeah.
in medicine. If you have any of those symptoms, there's a lot of research that those things go hand in hand with leaky gut and an imbalance in the gut bacteria, and you can get a lot of traction working on the gut in addition to the metabolic symptoms.
Yeah. That's very interesting there with that last point in there. Um, yeah, there's so much I think that goes into like gut health and how it's so intertwined, with our own bodies. Like I know for me personally, like all those things that you said, like changing my nutrition and kind of focusing in on those things that have affected me, like you said, like brain fog. Like I think people don't
Yeah.
realize, like like they eat a meal and they wonder why they get so tired, or they get I used to get I was one of those people that used to drink their protein shake after every single workout. And I was like,
Mm.
why do I get, this like fog come over me? And I was like, that's so weird. It's just, I'm just tired from my workout. And then I realized it was my protein shake that just wasn't
Mm.
sitting well with me ever.
Mm.
So I was like, oh, okay, maybe and I cut that out and I felt so much better just
Right.
overall
Yeah.
from that. And same here with asthma and my eczema over years of kind of playing around. Once I figured out that, hey, like that has an effect with the inflammatory process in your body, that does has to do right in line with your gut and your gut health and taking care of that
Yeah.
personally. So I love this stuff. I think it's so interesting. I think it is like kind of an under spoke about way. Obviously, I'm no expert in there, so that's why I don't speak about it much, because I only know from, my own personal experience and what's worked for me.
Yeah.
So what would you what advice would you give people to, like, what actions can they take, in their daily life, like right away, to kind of address these issues, or maybe even kind of look to see if they have any issues with their gut?
Yeah. Well, you accidentally or intentionally, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
hit on one of my favorite pieces of nutritional advice for gut health,
Yeah.
and that is diversity.
Yeah.
So, when you said that your body was getting PO'd from the protein shake every day
Yeah.
that you were
Yeah.
drinking,
Yeah.
one of the things that can happen, well, there's two primary reasons for this, for
Yeah.
diversifying your diet, and that being absolutely critical for gut health. Number one is that, again, most of your immune system lives in the gut. And
Mhm.
if you're getting exposed to the same thing all day, every day, there's a better likelihood that your immune system is going to get ticked and it's going to start launching a response against the
Yeah.
thing that it's constantly in contact with. And
Mhm.
that's especially true if you do have any sort of inflammation or like other gut stuff going on. So if you already
Yeah.
have IBS and then, you're over consuming something like a protein shake, for example,
Mhm.
there's more of a likelihood your immune system is going to go bonkers next time it sees that thing. So I see this a lot with food sensitivity testing, where people often will get these tests done with another provider, another
Mhm.
functional clinic, something like that. And they'll bring it into me, and we have it over how valid it is or how useful it is. But one
Yeah.
pattern that rings true is that whenever people do these tests, it seems like it lines up conveniently with the foods that they eat the most of. So,
Yeah.
like, I've had paleo people who are getting flagged for being sensitive to eggs, like off the
Yeah.
charts for eggs.
Yeah.
And I've had vegans who appear to react to every single grain and
Yeah.
everything in between. I've even had people supposedly that are reactive to things like lettuce um, because they eat salads every
Yeah.
day. And whether that is a valid test and whether you need to eliminate that food is very much up for grabs, and I would lean towards no. But
Yeah.
what does seem to happen is the more you expose your body to something, the more likelihood that you're going to have some squirrely response like that.
Yeah.
So just making sure that you don't overconsume something all day, every day. And I joke, I'm a recovered vegetarian.
Yeah.
And when I was a vegetarian, I was a gluten and dairyitarian. I
Yeah.
ate like cheese and pasta all day, every day. And
Yeah.
those conveniently are the two foods that my body super, super hates now. And
Yeah.
I know trigger a response for me. But the other thing was that I ate store bought hummus every day of my life
Yeah.
without fail. And it had tahini in it, sesame
Uh-huh.
paste.
Yeah.
And for many years, my immune system got royally pissed if I ate sesame.
Okay.
So, for me, eliminating that for a period of time and then reintroducing it, now I can tolerate it. But it was
Yeah.
that pattern again of like, oh, these are all the things I eat every day. And now my immune system super doesn't like any of them. And it
Mhm.
might just need a hot minute to think about those foods again.
Yeah.
Um, so that's one element. The other thing is that if you eat a variety, particularly of plant foods,
Yeah.
then you're going to ensure that you're feeding all of your gut microbiome adequately.
Mhm.
Because like you're going to have some bacteria that really like carrots, but
Yeah.
they don't care about avocados. And you're going
Yeah.
to have other bacteria that really like avocados, but they could give a flying fig about figs,
Yeah.
like et cetera. So if you eat a little bit of everything, a
Mhm.
little bit of rice, a little bit of oats, a little bit of blueberries, a little bit of pineapple, whatever it might be, you're ensuring that you're feeding everybody in that cohort and you're keeping them all happy and healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I think that's great. I know that's something that, when I was first going into, looking into, improving my gut health, diversity was probably the one thing that stood out. And I was like, oh, out of all the, research I was seeing, diversity, it makes sense to me. I, in my, just fitness and nutrition mind, I think one thing it done all the time is not good. And I think in any aspect of your life. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that makes sense for your gut too. Like, why would, if you eat the same things over and over again, how can that be necessarily good for your body? I don't think that there's always availability of the same
Yeah.
things. I think about like when we first became, when we first were humans, but there are seasons in the year. You're not supposed to eat the same foods every single
Hmm.
day, because in seasons, you're not always going to get blueberries like we have access to
Yeah,
now, or, you know,
exactly.
pineapples or apples or whatever it may be, you know, even meats. So like if you can rotate those through, I think each of them have their own, um, you know, benefit to them. So I think that's
Yeah.
great piece of advice that people can really, you know, kind of take into action, you know, right now. So what kind of is there anything else that people can do, like, you know, look at or should be, you know, looking to, you know, maybe change within their diets or in their nutrition, you know, that they can focus on to, you know, improve their gut health, you know, adding that diversity and, you know, variety in there, is definitely probably like that top notch advice.
Yeah, and there's different kind of tricks and stuff that I teach people to do that because, you know, trying new foods or trying to hit certain numbers for diversity can get really intimidating for some people. Like if
Yeah.
they have relied on a couple of things for their whole
Mhm.
life.
Yeah.
The benchmark that I've seen now is that you ideally want a minimum of 30 different plant foods in your diet per week,
Okay.
like non-processed, right? So if you eat
Yeah.
gluten-free bread that has 18 ingredients and one of which happens to be rice flour, I don't think that really counts.
Yeah.
But, you know, like eating rice or eating oats or eating blueberries. So I have people kind of do like a modified food diary. I jokingly
Mm.
call it the very type B laid back food diary, where I just have them
Yeah.
circle stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to provide that for your listeners, actually. I'll give you a
Yeah.
link after we're done with that.
Yeah.
But it makes it super easy to gauge how diverse your diet actually is because you
Mhm.
just circle stuff for the week and then you go through and you count up your points and you kind of tally
Yeah.
it up. But some of my favorite hacks to get that diversity that your gut
Yeah.
microbiome wants is salads and smoothies are
Okay.
really good hacks because you can load
Yeah.
up a smoothie with 8 gajillion different things,
Yeah.
and you can use, you know, frozen fruit or frozen spinach, fiber supplements. Like you could go hog wild with a smoothie.
Yeah.
And salads, if you do fancier salads and you put,
Yeah.
you know, strawberries in your salad or
Yeah.
walnuts or whatever it might be, you could get some more diversity in a salad pretty easily.
Mhm.
The other thing I like personally is I like to go to ethnic markets and just see what they
Mhm.
have that I'm not familiar with. So I'll go to
Yeah.
like the local Asian supermarket and I'll pick out
Yeah.
something that I've never tried before
Yeah.
and I'll see if I can cook it. Sometimes it doesn't end well and I
Yeah.
totally butcher it,
Yeah.
but you know, I try. And then similarly, you know, we'll go to like an Indian supermarket or a Mexican supermarket and we'll just try to get something that we haven't tried out before.
Yeah.
And look and see if there's anything new. I kind of do that with Amazon too. I look for like different dried fruits that I haven't tried
Yeah.
out before, just
Interesting.
for fun. But yeah, forgive me, I forget your question that started us off, and I don't remember if I answered it adequately. But those are
Yeah.
just the pro tips for the diversity thing.
Yeah, no, those are definitely, you know, I think tracking, you know, your food intake in general, whether it's, you know, for, you know, a weight loss goal, muscle gain goal, but
Mhm.
also, you know, to have that diversity in that diet, I think that definitely is a great way to go if that's like what you're looking to improve on. I think without tracking your progress, you're just guessing at it,
Yeah,
at your, you know, what you're going for. So if you're looking to improve that, I think that's great. You know, and I'm name of the podcast is Simply Fitness. Like I think that's super
yeah,
simple and that's the way to go. I don't think it needs to be any more complex
yeah.
than
It's
that.
pretty doable and yeah, straightforward. It's not fancy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just have people print something off. I have people print off the little sheet and then stick it on their fridge or on their bathroom mirror and just circle stuff once or twice a day to track. But it's turned into a really useful tool because I think that there's a lot of people, myself included, who
Yeah.
they'll self-assess and say, "Well, I eat vegetables or I eat healthy,"
Yeah.
but maybe they don't get the diversity. Like maybe they're really over reliant on carrots or they're really
Yeah.
over reliant on avocados or something. So maybe they're getting what does the USDA even say? Like 30 servings per week or something. Like maybe they're getting 30
Yeah.
servings of vegetables per week,
Hmm.
but maybe they're eating 20 servings of carrots
Yeah.
and like 2 servings of cucumber, and it's
Yeah.
not super diverse. So it's a nice way for people to actually assess and say, okay, I feel like I eat healthy and I feel
Yeah.
like I eat enough vegetables, but having
Mhm.
that benchmark and that number and then some way to track it in an easy, doable way has been really helpful where people go, oh, I
Yeah.
wasn't hitting my numbers, or maybe they were and they didn't think so initially.
Yeah. I
So yeah,
think we
keeps it honest.
Yeah, exactly. I think we overestimate, you know, how well we do. I think sometimes if like obviously we think we're healthy, even if it's clearly, from an outside perspective showing that we're not, we're overweight or, we're sluggish or we don't feel well.
Mhm.
But we think we're being healthy. I think that's just a great way to, be like, okay, like you think you're healthy, but what does that mean? Are you showing like what progress are you actually making and how,
Yeah.
what's in your actual diet? I think that's great. I think that's why calorie counting is, a huge way for, for weight loss. Like how much, like we always think that we always underestimate how many calories we're eating in a day. Like even
Mhm.
nutritionists, they've done studies on nutritionists, RDs,
Mhm.
they underestimate how many calories they're eating every day. And they're professionals. It's their job. Like that's
Yeah,
what
it's
they
not
do.
from a lack of knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. It's just how our brains work. It's, like they're like we overestimate how much we can do in 1 year and underestimate how much we can do in 10. It's our brains are not made sometimes to estimate how much we're supposed to do because we either overestimate or we underestimate. We never hit it right there on the nose. So I think
Yeah.
tracking that is a huge way. I think that's a great hack, putting that, on the fridge and just circling it. Is there a
Yep.
certain amount? Is it just like does it have to be one serving or is it just like a nibble or is there like a certain amount that people should be aiming for? Is it one serving of that, plant-based food?
I'm pretty flexible with this. On my little handout that I'll provide for you and your listeners,
Yeah.
there's one page I kind of go through like the rules of the game, as it
Hmm.
were. For example, if something is totally overloaded with sugar, in my
Yeah.
opinion, it shouldn't count. So
Yeah.
like craisins, it's
Yeah.
like 38 grams of sugar for a serving of craisins. You don't get to count that as cranberries. Go
Yeah.
home, get real
Yeah.
cranberries.
Yeah.
So there's little stuff like that, but I guesstimated you probably want at least a tablespoon or two of whatever the food might be, with the exception
Okay.
of herbs and spices, which I personally included in my list. Because
Okay.
most of them, whether it be, dill or oregano or thyme or rosemary, they all are good for the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
So the more the merrier for spices. But with the exception of spices, I think you want at least a couple tablespoons of whatever the food is. So I
Gotcha.
joke in the handout that if you eat one sliver of raw onion on top of a burger, you don't get to count onions. Like, go home. You
Yeah.
need to saute some onions or something and
Yeah.
actually eat a little bit more as far as
Gotcha.
like this evaluation goes. Now, for some of my
Gotcha.
IBS patients, eating that one sliver of raw onion could be like hugely world shakingly different because they haven't
Yeah.
eaten onions in
And
2 years
yeah. Yeah.
and they haven't been able to tolerate it. So, for like reintroducing foods that you're scared of or you've historically had a problem with, that's another conversation. And
Yeah.
that takes a lot more to work through. And there's some trauma
Yeah.
and some bullshit stuff with that goes oftentimes with IBS, unfortunately. So we've got to
Hmm.
kind of pick that apart. But for most people, yeah, I say you want at least a couple tablespoons of whatever the thing is.
Yeah. Does it matter if it's raw, cooked? I know you said,
Yeah,
smoothies or and things like that. Okay.
yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, because that's always a question that, I think about is like, okay, like, because I'm a big cook. So like I know like when you
Mhm.
cook something, it changes it, like when you
Yeah.
cook a meat, it changes, the
Hmm.
structure of the meat, same
Yep.
thing, um, so I was just curious if you had an opinion on that and whether it was different between like cooked vegetables versus raw vegetables, because I see that all the time and people like you got to eat it raw or it doesn't count or you got to eat it cooked,
Yeah. It might it probably changes things and it might matter on some level in a way that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I think, you could chalk it up to your preference. Like,
Yeah.
I know people who love raw carrots, but they won't eat a cooked carrot. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
just eat the carrots. I don't even care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, for, like, I'm not a Chinese medicine practitioner, but I know
Yeah.
sometimes in TCM, traditional Chinese medicine,
Yeah.
they'll talk about like the energetics of the person versus the
Yeah.
food. So I'm a person who's always cold, like
Yeah.
24/7. Hands are
Yeah.
cold, feet are
Okay.
cold. I'm just always cold. And every acupuncturist I've been to has told me that I should not eat a lot of raw food and like
Okay.
cold food because it depletes me further. And like
Okay.
energetically speaking, I should eat more cooked food and warm food.
Okay.
That's the basis of my understanding of that. So I can't
Uh,
answer
Speak
much
more.
more than
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I just noticed that pattern with all the acupuncturists I've worked with. But I think, the only one that I actually have an opinion on from the microbiome perspective is are you familiar at all with resistant starch or what that
Uh,
is?
a little bit. The term sounds familiar, but
Okay, so basically it's starch that resists our digestive processes.
Okay.
So it's a starch is just a type of carbohydrate for
Yeah.
the viewers. I almost said the readers, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a type of carbohydrate or starch that escapes our digestive juices. So it gets through
Gotcha.
the intestines. We don't absorb it, so we
Hmm.
don't get calories from it. But
Yeah.
by doing that and making it down to the colon unchanged or unabsorbed, now the colon microbiota gets to eat it up.
Yeah.
So resistant starch is like a type of prebiotic, and it
Yeah.
feeds the good microbes in your gut.
Hmm.
For that, there are a couple of foods that the cooked and cool thing makes a difference.
Yeah.
So if you were to cook a white potato, for
Hmm.
example, and just eat it hot out of the oven, then it would have a lot of starch, and you would
Yeah.
absorb that as carbohydrates, and you
Carbohydrates.
would get energy from it. But if you eat that exact same potato, you cook it and then you cool it down and you eat it cold, like in a cold potato salad,
Hmm.
it changes the structure of the starch just enough that now we are not as good at absorbing it and it escapes
Interesting.
our digestion. And then that resistant starch makes it down to the colon and feeds the microbes. It's the
Interesting.
exact same potato. It's theoretically the exact same number of calories. It's just a matter of how good we are at absorbing it and extracting calories from it. And whatever we don't extract calories from is fair game for the gut microbiome. So that's
Interesting.
one example where like it does matter. I don't know if that's consistent among other foods. Like I don't know if you do that to broccoli if it
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
But certainly potatoes and rice, both, if you cook and then cool down rice, it has more resistant starch and you'll get less carbohydrate calories from it versus
Okay.
eating the hot rice. So I
Interesting.
know those two do change. And the same thing with ripe versus unripe bananas and plantains.
Yeah.
If you eat a banana while it's still green
Mm.
or
Yeah.
greener,
Yeah.
you get more resistant starch. But
Yeah.
then as the banana ripens, that resistant starch breaks down into sugar.
Sugar.
And
Yep.
then the ripe bananas have a lot more sugar that's readily
So they're
absorbable. And
sweeter.
then you're going to get, yeah, more of a blood sugar spike from that same food.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. I never knew that. That's pretty interesting. Does it act similar to then like fiber? Like the resistant starch, acts a little bit more like eating, a fiber rich food.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to behave more like a prebiotic or a fiber and feed the good bacteria. Um, it's not in the same category as like roughage, like
Yeah.
salad and bran. So it's
Yeah.
not going to be the type of fiber that like adds a lot of bulk to your stool necessarily,
Yeah.
but it is going to feed those microbes for you.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
So speaking of fiber, I just know that's like a one aspect that I see a lot on my social media, with the people that I
Mhm.
follow. They're all fitness professionals, nutrition,
Mhm.
and a lot of people, do promote fiber rich foods. What's
Yep.
what's your, kind of thought on, fiber, how important is it, to the gut health? Because that's what a lot of them are promoting, like, oh, this
Mhm.
is great for your gut, um, and whatnot. So like, what's your opinion on it from like a more professional, um,
Yeah.
maybe a
Yeah, I think
more,
fiber is great.
yeah.
Similarly, you're better off trying to mix it up and get several different types of fiber.
Mhm.
So, if you had the pick of taking like Metamucil, who would? But,
Yeah.
if you had like a product that has a single fiber source in it versus
Yeah.
something that has several different types of fiber, you're
Gotcha.
probably better off with that unless you're trying to target something really specific. Like when I look at stool tests, sometimes I will target something really, really specific on a stool test. But
Mhm.
beyond that, if you're just trying to get more fiber for the sake of fiber, you're probably better off getting something with a little bit more diversity within that product. Because again, you're going to cover some bases and feed a bunch of different types of bacteria with it. Um, but yeah, I think fiber is really important, and most Americans don't get enough.
Oh
It's,
yeah.
I think it's like where you want to place your attention in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Like, I think that by diversifying your diet and making a point to get that diversity and like hit your points on the handout that I mentioned,
Yeah.
you're going to get enough fiber more than
Yeah.
likely, unless you're getting your points on that system with like only herbs and spices.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you're eating fruits and vegetables and whole grains and nuts and seeds, like if you're using that system, you might not even have to think in terms of fiber. Like you might
Mhm.
not have to engage the left brain at all in that case.
Yeah.
And you can just stick with seeing the food as the food instead
Yeah.
of breaking it down that way. But if you're more of like a left brainy person and you want to track scientifically validated things, then
Yeah.
tracking fiber intake can be helpful. What I would say too is that some people will find, I would say the majority of people, 80 or 90%, will do really well increasing their fiber or increasing fruit and vegetable intake and diversity. But
Yeah.
then there's going to be the squirrely 10 or 20%
Yeah.
where they increase fruit and vegetable intake or fiber intake and they get really bloated
Yeah.
or they get really constipated or they have diarrhea or they have something adverse happen and they're kind of
Hmm.
left scratching their head, like that meme with Jackie Chan, like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're like, WTF, like I feel like I'm getting punished for eating healthy foods.
Yeah.
If that is the case, then that's a red flag to get evaluated for that thing I mentioned before, SIBO.
Yeah.
That's SIBO. If you just Google it, you'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
But basically, if you are not doing a good job keeping your food moving from mouth to
Hmm.
anus on a
Yeah.
regular, and if
Yeah.
that movement, that motility is disrupted, you can have an overgrowth of bacteria in your small intestine where
Okay.
frankly they don't really belong, like they should
Yeah.
mostly be in the colon.
Yeah.
And that can happen, and that's a root cause for a lot of people with IBS, or
Yeah.
rather that's the true diagnosis for a lot of people who have IBS. But
Hmm.
I've had patients where literally they're so confused and frustrated coming in to see me, and I remember this one girl, she was a college student here at UNC, and she said, when I'm here, I eat a salad with my lunch every day. I eat vegetables. I'm mostly plant based. Like I have a little bit of protein here and there, like animal protein. I eat clean. I try to eat organic. I drink kombucha, and my gut is horrible. Like all the time bloated, like abdominal pain, diarrhea. It's miserable. And then she went with her friends to the beach,
Yeah.
and she said she drank beer and ate pizza for the entire week, and she had beautiful normal poops, no bloating, no nothing, and she felt great. And then she came back to school and she was eating the salads and the fiber and she flared up again and she was like, what on earth is going on? It was
Yeah.
so frustrating. Like she felt like she was getting punished for eating healthy food and she really
Yeah.
wanted to be healthy. But she
That's
was like,
frustrating.
honestly, maybe I should just eat pizza and be done with it. And we later figured out, no, she had pretty bad imbalance in the gut bacteria. And a piece of that was too many bacteria in the small bowel. And we had to work on that SIBO element of it. But if
Hmm.
you experience that, that's a red flag that you should get evaluated for SIBO.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting there. So we've talked a lot about, like the nutritional aspect of gut health, but is there maybe other things that can affect your gut health? Anything that, on top of, what you're eating? Is there anything that like maybe people are doing or maybe not doing that could be affecting their overall gut health?
Yeah, I mean, I think just about everything does, but I'll touch base on some of the biggies. Um, a lot of medications
Okay.
will mess with the gut in some way, shape, or form. The biggest to me, and the ones that
Hmm.
I talk about with patients when I see them on an intake or a history, is a class of drugs called proton pump inhibitors. So this
Okay.
would be like Nexium and Prilosec
Okay.
and Protonix. There
Yeah.
is a class of drugs that suppresses your stomach acid.
Hmm.
They really mess with your gut quite a lot. It'll
Okay.
band-aid the reflux, so you don't have
Yeah.
acid reflux for the time being, but it can make it really hard to get off those medications, for one, because
Yeah.
then you get worse reflux. But
Mm.
also, it can be a root cause for that SIBO thing that we talked about, and it can
Mm.
allow bacteria to overgrow in the small intestine, and it kind of wrecks your digestive process in a lot of ways. You actually need your stomach acid to digest stuff.
Yeah.
It's there for a
It's important.
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just like, a joke like those memes like God and the angel, like, hey, I put acid in their stomach. How funny is that? They'll have to figure
Mhm.
out something to neutralize it. Like, it wasn't like a joke
Yeah.
on some weird cosmic level. Like, it's there for a purpose.
Yeah.
And suppressing that acid can really wreck your gut in a lot of ways. So that's
Yeah.
one. The class of drugs, NSAIDs, so like
Okay.
ibuprofen, Aleve, Advil, like those kinds of drugs, Excedrin, really can do a lot of damage to the gut, especially the lining, and
Yeah.
make you more prone to things like ulcers and bleeds. But also that leaky gut thing that I touched on really briefly and makes the gut really inflamed. So NSAIDs, and a lot of people use those quite frequently, I might add.
Yeah.
Um, Overconsumption of alcohol will also wear away at the gut lining and make it really
Mhm.
inflamed and leaky. And even a lot of environmental pollutants and compounds, things
Yeah.
in our environment like bisphenols, like BPA,
Yeah.
and heavy metals and things like mercury and arsenic. A lot of them are detrimental to the gut, either the lining itself or the microbes or the mucus or some part of the digestive process is usually frigged up pretty hard from things like those metals and environmental pollutants. And then stress is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
If you're alive in this day and age, you have stress, first of all.
Yeah.
And then with all of the kerfuffle of 2020 and beyond, like we're all super stressed now.
Yeah.
So just being mindful of that and trying to work with that in whatever way you can. And like work on, your traumas and your hurts and your baggage. And like I'm not a psychologist, but I have a tremendous appreciation for what they do.
Yeah.
And I know like Amy and I talk about that a lot on our podcast, just like how stress wrecks the gut and how
Hmm.
you can't just take 500 probiotics and shove your stress down deep inside and keep it bottled
Yeah.
up and hope to get better.
Yeah.
So stress is big. And then also sleep. If
Yeah.
your circadian rhythm is out of whack and you're going to bed at irregular times and waking up at irregular times, and if you're eating at weird times every day and you don't have a consistent eating schedule, your microbes get real confused. Just
Yeah.
because they have a circadian rhythm too, but
Hmm.
they don't have the benefit of seeing sunlight. There's no
Yeah.
sunlight in your colon, FYI. So like
Yeah.
they're just kind of in there watching and waiting for you to do something or for your signaling processes to let them know, hey, it's morning, hey, it's night, hey, you should be sleeping, hey, you should be awake. So the circadian rhythm is a pretty underappreciated topic within the field of gut health. Even within my field, functional medicine, nobody really talks about that.
Yeah. No, I think sleep is one of the most underrated things that people can do. It's like if you improve, not just because people think, oh, I just need to sleep more. It's not just sleeping more. It's, making sure that quality of sleep is so important. I think sleep it's pretty much, the main reason I have energy all the time is I sleep well. People are like, oh, why don't you drink as much coffee as you do? It's like, I sleep well. Like if I don't get my 8 hours of sleep, I'm out of whack. Like I
Yeah.
am
It's the
100%
cat's
out of whack.
pajamas.
Yeah. People got to get more sleep. And now it's even more important, it affects not just your gut health, but it affects everything. I think it's all interconnected. I think, kind of like that chain link fence. If you have that one link that's falling off, it really affects the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I think gut health is a piece of that puzzle, on top of, all those things we touched on before, your movement, your sleep, what you're eating, your stress, I think that all intertwines with it. If one of them's out of whack, it can affect every single one. Or if you're not taking care of one, it's going to have, a detrimental effect on that as well.
Yeah.
And so I think.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was just going to say the kind of running theme for functional medicine, I think, and what I do at least, is that everything is connected to everything else.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in ways that we do not understand.
Yeah.
Science isn't done yet, right? So like scientists will continue discovering things indefinitely, I hope, and give us, 10, 20 years, and we're going to know things about the gut microbiome that are just going to blow our socks off compared to what we know today. So it's like, just operate under the assumption that all the things are related and all the things matter. So again, like sometimes I have patients that they come in and work with me, and there's this distinct like, I want you to give me a probiotic and an herb and send me on my way. And I don't want to change my lifestyle. And I don't want to admit that I'm really stressed or that I have trauma. Or, why are we talking about sleep? That's not related. I mean, I guess I don't get a lot of people who say that verbally, but they're occasionally that air of like, I hired you to work on my gut and tell me about my poop test. Why are we talking about sleep?
Yeah.
But it's all connected. And the gut is only one piece of the puzzle. So, sometimes we have to look at the interplay between different body parts, but that's thankfully what functional medicine is really good at, as opposed to conventional medicine, where they have a different doctor for every body part. You go to, the rheumatologist to talk about your joints, and the GI doctor to talk about your gut, and the neurologist to talk about your brain. And if you try to talk about your gut with the neurologist, they're going to think you're a damn crazy person. Yeah. So conventional medicine, bless their hearts, they'll save your life if you're on the brink of death, but they're not so good with the chronic, insidious, annoying, life-changing stuff that's not going to kill you immediately.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, a great thing that people go in especially in the world of fitness and nutrition, same with you, is people come thinking that there's like a magic pill, something that they can just solve. You see the, lose 20 pounds in 2 weeks, type
Yeah.
of thing. And that it just doesn't work that way. And it's not, if you're not looking to change what you're doing or, adjust your life, to, improve it, it's not going to work, overall if you don't do that. So
Yeah.
definitely you gotta, make those adjustments and fit them, within your lifestyle that you want to live. With that, that's, what I, preach, on my, social media and in my business. And, you gotta fit it within your lifestyle, and same, with your gut health. If you want to feel better, and live better, you got to make those adjustments towards it.
Yeah. And I think, human behavior change is tricky at best. We all have the things that we like and we don't like, and our biases and our stories and our internal dialogues. And it can be really hard to influence change for real, for real. And just
Yeah.
ask anybody, like, how many New Year's resolutions have you ever upheld? Right? Like
Yeah.
most people, it's a really sad number because it's often the situation with any goal setting, but I find New Year's resolutions to be particularly so, where,
Yeah.
you're like acutely, extremely motivated the day of the new year. You're like, I'm going to lose X amount of weight, or I'm going to drink 87 glasses of water per day, or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. And then, things start to pan out and you realize, oh, this is harder than I thought it would be, or I kind of miss my old life. I kind of miss my old way of doing things. And then you kind of backslide. So I like, little incremental changes, even though they're not as glamorous and they don't make great Instagram posts necessarily. Like the little things of like, hey, I walked to work today.
Yeah.
I want to get back into proper exercise more so in the new year.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, I walked a mile to work the last 2 days in a row. And that's something. And I'm just going to
Yeah.
give myself that and kind of like open up that space and that understanding for myself. And then when I'm ready to actually like break more of a sweat, it doesn't help that my gym closed and everything's
Yeah.
a cluster F right now with the
Yeah.
world. But like when I'm ready to bust out my medicine ball and my TRX and whatever else at home,
Yeah.
I'll be ready for that. But for right now, I'm just going to start walking to work and kind of move my butt a little bit. And I think the same goes for nutrition. If you try to go from an entire life potentially of eating standard American garbage food,
Yeah.
and then you're like, I'm going to do, the whole 30, or I'm going to do the cleanse, or I'm going to do a whatever challenge for 30 days in January. What happens on February 1st?
Yeah.
You go crazy. And I've talked to so many people. Even recently, I was speaking with a prospective patient and about like what they've tried so far and making sure we're a good fit. And he mentioned, he was like, yeah, I did a whole 30, but like I didn't do the reintroduction phase
Right.
properly. And I'm like, yeah, you and everybody else, every
Yeah.
person practically that I've talked to who has tried a whole 30 does the 30 days. And then when it comes to the hard work of reintroducing things one at a time and watching
Yeah.
to see if anything weird happens,
Yeah.
by the time you get through the 30 days, you feel so deprived that you're just like, screw it. I'm going
Yeah.
to eat a pizza. And they go out
Yeah.
and they go right back to eating normal food. So, like,
Yeah.
wouldn't it make more sense then, instead of making yourself feel so weird and deprived and
Yeah.
sad for 30 days and then yo yoing again, start off, say, like, if you're a Diet Coke addict and you drink 2 or 3 Diet Cokes a day, maybe start by giving yourself a weekly allocation of like 3 Diet Cokes a week
Yeah.
and just try to kind of get that ingrained as a habit first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can start working on, I don't even know, like a new exercise regimen, like do one thing at a time every month or two and make those incremental changes until they no longer feel like a chore and they feel like a normal part of your life. And then you can layer in something else. So like start, if you're looking at the point system that I mentioned, if you see that you're getting 10 different plant foods in your diet per week,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh man, I have to change. I don't necessarily recommend that you go out and you buy like everything at Whole Foods
Yeah.
and everything at Sprouts Farmers Market and like get all of the things and then take 3 probiotics and take a fiber supplement. Like just start by giving yourself the goal of getting up to 20
Yeah.
consistently. Do that for like a month and then up the ante and try some new recipes and try to work things into the mix. And then maybe go buy yourself a probiotic or then go buy yourself, a fiber supplement to put in your shake or whatever. But oftentimes it's not going to be overnight and it's not going to be glamorous, but if you make these incremental changes, you can make
Yeah.
really stellar progress.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. Let me touch on this in just a second. My computer charger fell out. My computer is going to die, and I don't want to ruin the conversation here, but I really do want to touch on that.
Okay. I should take this opportunity to talk about something really random, like penguins or anime.
And we're back, and we got a charger on, and we're good. So I think that's amazing. I am 100% a believer in that. I recently, over like the last probably like 16 months to 16 months to 18 months, have recently just lost over 20 pounds myself. And it wasn't from a lack of having been there before, but just like a life circumstance. And I could have done it faster, and I could have done it, in 4 months if I really wanted to. But all exactly what you just said, I needed to make those small changes to make it more sustainable in the long term. Making those small changes makes it more adaptable. And at this point, I no longer need to count calories. I no longer, really track my workouts as much as I need to, because I know what I need to do to maintain where I'm at and feel comfortable at where I'm at. So if you make these drastic changes, for some people, they do work. There is definitely going to be, 10, 20% of people that it's going to work. They're going to be able to go cold turkey and, change a drastic amount of stuff in their life. But then 80% of people are just going to quit after the first 2 weeks, because it is, that scarcity mindset, which just makes us afraid that we're depriving ourselves of all these things, when it's like, well, why don't you focus on adding something in, like adding 10 new fruits and vegetables to your diet, adding in that walk instead of focusing on taking away things. I think that switch right there is huge for people to actually make that behavior change, because if you think about the stuff you don't want to do, it's always going to be at the top of your mind. You're always going to be thinking about, oh, I can't eat pizza. I can't eat pizza. I can't eat pizza.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to be the one thing you're going to want? Pizza.
All day, every day.
Exactly. It's all you're going to be thinking about. If you think about, oh, I can't have soda today, or I can't have coffee today, that's all you're going to think about. But why not maybe like, okay, I'm going to add water in. So I'm going to have, 24 ounces of water before I have my coffee every day. Or I'm going to have a fruit or veggie with every single meal today. Adding those things in focuses less on those things you maybe don't want to have versus those things that, oh, I'm adding this in. It makes you feel more abundant, like, oh man, I have so much of this stuff. I think while I'm on a diet, which I don't really like that word either, it's just, I feel like I eat more because I'm, filling that plate with more of those, foods that are filled with, that nutrition that really does fill me up, like those fruits, those vegetables, those whole grains and protein and everything.
Yeah. And you touched on that too. What I was going to say is that naturally, when you add things in, you do crowd out the bad stuff anyway. And the same thing happens with the gut microbiome. If you feed the good bacteria, they usually will crowd out and compete with the bad bacteria and the yeast and the stuff that you don't want anyway. So it might not be that you have to kill stuff in the gut. It might just be that you need to feed stuff. And similarly, like if you allocate time in your day or calories in your day to get one vegetable at every meal, like you said, you're naturally going to have less room to think that you want the cookies or the potato chips or whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
Or if you tell yourself, okay, I want to kick the Diet Coke addiction, but whenever I want a Diet Coke, I'm going to drink like a 16-ounce thing of water first. And after that, if I still want the Coke, then I'm going to allow myself to have the Coke.
Yeah.
Oftentimes with stuff like that, you'll find that you don't really want the Coke, or if you do, you want
Yeah.
like half of it. And then you're kind of
Yeah.
like, all right,
Exactly.
I've got water up to my eyeballs. I'm good. I don't need any more liquid.
Yeah.
So you're going to naturally gravitate away from the things that you want to gravitate away from. And it doesn't have to feel so harsh and restrictive and like yucky doing it.
Yeah, I think being too restrictive is what leads people to quit. I think being too restrictive with your fitness, with your diet,
Yeah.
is going to lead more likely to you not enjoying it, which who wants to do anything that they don't enjoy? So if you can
Mhm.
be more flexible with it and look for ways, I think that word you use, like crowd out, is a great way to kind of think about it. Because if you are think you don't have enough time for fitness, but you place in, that walk, you're going to start doing less of the things that maybe are taking up your time that maybe maybe shouldn't be, or, you're spending 3 hours watching Netflix every day. Well, now if
Mhm.
you start doing those things like meal prepping and, going for those walks or going for workouts, you're going to start doing maybe those things that aren't, you don't want to do as much of, but maybe you don't even notice that you're doing it for that long.
Mhm. Yeah, I have a more recent one for my life too that I just thought of.
Yeah.
Another one for me is that so I don't have Facebook on my phone
Yeah.
and I hardly use Instagram, but I do enjoy YouTube on my phone.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit too much. And I'll scroll and find some new Try Guys video or something that I want to watch.
Yeah.
And I've the last few of I have videos in bed before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I have my blue light blocking glasses and I have an app on my phone that filters blue light. So I tell myself it's not going to F up my circadian rhythm terribly. But
Yeah.
really, like, do I need to be basically watching TV until the moment I close my eyes? No.
Yeah.
But instead, and I've told myself, like, I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop doing that. But finally, the more successful shift in the last month ish for me has been not giving myself that boundary of like, I'm not going to do the bad thing. But
Yeah.
instead, I have a book that I'm really into right now. Like,
Yeah.
remember books? They're
Yeah.
made of trees, thin slices of trees that they put ink on, and they
Yeah.
package it all up. So I have one of those, like an actual physical book, and I'm just telling myself I'm going to read for at least a couple of minutes in
Yeah.
bed before I go to sleep. But what I find then is that since it's a book I'm really into, I find that then I don't want to put it down. And
Yeah.
then any time that I would have maybe allocated to YouTube, now
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I just spent half an hour reading the book, and now it's time to turn out the lights and go to bed.
Yeah.
So it just naturally kind of crowds out that bad habit, and it has felt less restrictive and more doable than when I was trying to just like not do the bad thing.
Exactly. I love to, go to bed to a good book, and read before that for the exactly same reason. So I don't just, I'm scrolling through my phone, on
Hmm.
social media, or, we're going through emails or whatever,
Yeah.
task I think is important at that moment, or playing games on there or whatnot. I think it
Hmm.
does, adding that other action in that's, supplements maybe the action that you don't want to take, is a good way to kind of just change that behavior and crowd out that other behavior. And you don't even think about, watching those videos or whatnot, because you're doing something else that you also
Yeah.
enjoy, and probably enjoy more than you would the YouTube videos, or, the social media or whatever other
Yeah.
task that you're doing, or foods you're eating, or
Yeah. And that's a good point too, like something that you enjoy being
yeah.
big. Like I'm enjoying this book. If I tried to do this with myself and say, all right, instead of YouTube, I'm going to take a cold shower before bed, I
Yeah.
would never ever do it because
Yeah.
I'm always cold.
Yeah.
So, you've got to pick something that you're actually going to do. And
Hmm.
then like with my book, initially I might not be like, yeah, I'm going to read for half an hour. But I tell
Yeah.
myself, just read for like 2 minutes. At
Yeah.
least say that you did it today. But then I always get hooked and then I end up wanting to read more. It's kind
Yeah.
of like going to the gym. Like for me, the experience of getting ready to go to the gym or
Yeah.
getting ready to work out is
Yeah.
most of the problem. Because I'm like,
Yep.
oh, I'm really tired or I'm really cold or I don't want to or, oh, it's going to take so much time. But once I actually start working out, I enjoy
Hmm.
it and I feel
Yeah.
good. And then I feel good afterwards. It's just like I have to get through 99% of the resistance is me getting to that first rep or getting to that
Yeah.
first whatever I do. So if I could just get through that, then I'm golden.
Yeah.
But I think that's important too. Like pick something that you're actually going to still find enjoyable. Like don't
Yeah.
punish yourself too much, And
Yeah. Yeah.
similarly with nutrition, if you've only eaten McDonald's burgers all your life, like don't abruptly try to go to like plain salads with no dressing.
Yeah.
Why would you do that anyway? But like
Yeah.
pick something like if you already enjoy carrots, I don't know, I'm just gonna use carrots. If you already enjoy carrots, like maybe try making like a roasted root vegetable thing that's like carrots and parsnips and potatoes. And that way it's like a little bit familiar, but also a little bit new.
Yeah.
And kind of like dip your toe into the water first and try a new recipe that way. Sometimes I find that can be helpful too.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. I love that. That's my favorite, gym method right there, is to get people in the gym. Is, even if you don't want to work out, if you feel like that day don't work out, it's a 10-minute rule. Go to the gym, 10 minutes, do whatever you want. Whatever you want. It could be bicep curls. It could be whatever you're feeling that day. And just do it. Do, a couple reps here, a couple reps there, go on the treadmill for a little bit. And then at the end of that 10 minutes, if you're really like, not really feeling it today,
Yeah.
go home. Go home. You did it. You went to the gym, you crossed it off, you did it. It might not have been exactly what you wanted to do that day, or, exactly what your plan included, but you did it, and you can check that off. And tomorrow's another day. And maybe tomorrow you're feeling a little bit better, a little bit more energized, less stressful day at work with life.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go to the gym and you have that energy and you have a great workout. That works. If you're consistent with taking that action, it matters less about what you're doing, and it matters more that you're doing it at the end of the day.
Yeah. And sometimes I use that on myself too. Like with nutrition, I'm just thinking, in my brain, there's some people in my field who talk about like, all right, get as many vegetables and as many fruits and as many fibers in that smoothie. Like it doesn't even have to taste good. And like just throw everything in it. And this one guy calls it a vegetable mashup. He's like, I don't even call it a smoothie anymore. Just throw everything in it for diversity. And it's like really hardcore, and that's cool. But also people don't want to drink a thing that they don't enjoy.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of hesitant to recommend that. But like, so I have this idea in my brain, admittedly, that when I make a green smoothie, I need it to be like, lots of spinach and lots of diversity. But sometimes it's just easier for me to be like, you know what? No, I'm going to make I'm going to make like strawberry and banana.
Yeah.
And put in a fiber supplement and almond milk. Yeah. Like it's simple. It's only going to get me a couple of points on my little point system. It's not going to be as good for diversity, but like at least I made the smoothie and I didn't have like toast for breakfast or something dumb like that,
Yeah.
Like at least it's a thing.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah, exactly. You got to take small steps at a time. So, Nikki, it was great talking with you today. Where can everybody find you? Out there on the interwebs.
The internets. So a couple of places. I have a YouTube channel called Triangle Holistic Gut Health. If you're wondering, I'm in the Triangle of North Carolina.
Yeah.
So that's the name. So Triangle Holistic Gut Health. Similarly, my Instagram handle is at Triangle Guts plural with an S on the end. And then I am one of two hosts of the IBS Freedom podcast, and that's available on both YouTube, and like, normal podcasting audio apps. And we have an Instagram page for that too. So yeah, IBS Freedom Podcast and Triangle Holistic Gut Health are my two places I hang out the most.
Awesome. I'll place that in the show notes for everybody, where they can get that. And Nikki will send over that point system she was talking about. You can also grab that as well in the show notes. Nikki, it was great talking with you. I know I personally learned a lot. I know my listeners will learn a lot as well. And it was super great talking with you. I hope you have an amazing day, and hopefully we can speak soon.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
You as well. Bye.